There we go. There we go. Welcome to the Elevation Podcast. My name is Shawn Riff-Raff. I am here. I am here to, like the name of the podcast is. It's called the Elevation Podcast. Is what God has me doing to try to elevate the culture to the next level, or the level it is in which God gave me the grace to try to elevate the culture to. I want to have some good conversations. I want to talk to you about some really cool stuff, some really good stuff, and just be able to inspire you a little bit, tug at your heart, tug at your mind a little bit, and just just have some good talk. Today I have with me. I don't know. Me and this guy go way back. It's a way back. The type of way back where I don't even know at what point we met. But I want y'all to give it up. Give it up for my homeboy. Give it up for my homeboy, brother Mark Tatum.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I got claps today. Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
What's up, brother?
I'm good, man. Life is good. God is good. So, no complaints, man.
Good, man. Come in a little bit. Come into that mic a little bit. So, it's really good to have you here. I as I think about it, I didn't think about it. I don't know what was the exact point that we actually met. It was a long time ago, though. And I remember, before I was country before country was cool. Mm-hmm. And I remember back in the day, I was running a series on my YouTube page called Kings of the Hustle.
Okay.
I remember it like it was yesterday. And so I was running the series called Kings of the Hustle. Mm-hmm. And we did a live one.
Okay.
You know what I mean? We did a live one, and I remember inviting you to just to talk on that.
I do remember that. Yeah.
On Kings of the Hustle Live.
Yeah.
But I don't exactly remember what, where exactly we actually met.
It was kind of one of those. It was at an event, from what I remember.
Right.
And I'm showing my age now because I remember it's foggy now. But it was at an event.
I was there, so I can't even talk.
And so the plug was the homie, a son.
Right. I remember that.
Shouts out to his son. And so, but you had a table. And this was you had been on the radio for a minute, you know what I mean? So you were selling merch and selling product at the table.
Right.
And so son was like, hey, could you help, Riff, he's at the table, just kind of watches, his stuff for him and while we do this thing. And he was about to go on stage next, and so you were done and you were sitting at the table. So I was like, hey, what's up? And I think we had heard of each other.
Okay.
And then, but that to me was like the first meeting, like, hey, what's up? You had heard of me, and he was like, okay, cool, just sit down, and somebody comes, and here's how you take, their order. Just, they can ask questions and that sort of thing. So that's what I remember. It was at an event. It was at a table. Don't ask me what year it was, because I couldn't tell you. But it was back in the. It was within the millennium. It was 2000 something.
Right.
That's all I got.
Hey, listen. It was in the millennium.
That's all I got.
It was in the millennium. That's what we got.
That's all I got for you, man.
Yeah, and all I remember is us having a bunch of conversations, mostly being online. Yeah, I remember us, having a bunch of conversations, mostly being online or just collectively having thoughts online or whatever. But I distinctly remember, back when we did the Kings of the Hustle, that live one. That was a really fun thing. I had no idea what I was doing.
But you did it though.
Yeah,
you did the thing.
It was fun, man, and it was it was live streaming. It was live streaming over 10 years ago, and that was that was an interesting time. It was an interesting time. Man. So let's before we get into our philosophical conversations about things that God's doing on the earth, yes. And talking about the culture and stuff like that. Yeah. Before we go through all of that, I want to start by understanding exactly who Mark Tatum is.
Okay.
Where's Mark Tatum from?
Okay.
You know, how did you grow up? What brings you to be who you are today? And for the people who don't know you, who are you? And start anywhere of any of those questions.
Man, well, I appreciate that, man, and on some real stuff, man. I appreciate being a guest on this show, man.
Oh, man.
I'm number 2, but like it's an honor. And like I said, you pioneered that Kings of the Hustle thing. Like you were doing it before it was popular,
right?
You know what I mean? So, me being here is a privilege, and me talking about myself, it's gonna be a little weird, but I'll do it, because I'm a guest, so I'll do it. But, so where am I from? DC born, Maryland raised.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Family is connected to DC, but I was, born, PG raised.
Mm-hmm.
Started off at DC schools, Bunker Hill. Shout out to all my Bunker Hill Beavers. Then went to PG County schools. And as far as my genesis, so started off in music. Started off with piano at the age of 5, classical piano. Classical training with piano.
Right.
Then I moved quickly to percussion, like orchestral percussion with the DC Youth Orchestra.
Okay.
That's the other big event that happened in my life. And shout out to all the DC Youth Orchestra alumni. So I learned in DC Youth Orchestra. I learned orchestral percussion. I learned clarinet, and then eventually moved over to saxophone. And still back and forth with drums. And I started playing drums at age 11, I believe, and then from there, I started playing drums at Mount Pleasant Baptist Church too. That's my home church. So
okay.
That's pretty much how I grew up and where I'm from and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So,
So when did you start to get into ministry, into just the studying of the word, the gospel, all of that stuff? Because I met you a long time ago, so I can't. You had been in it when I met you.
So this was all right. I gave my life to Christ. I got baptized when I was 6.
Right.
I did it just because my older brother did it. It seemed like a natural rites of passage. So I went up to the front. So, I want to do it too. But it was more to take the communion bread and that sort of thing. So
right.
I had known that God was a part of my life. But I didn't really dedicate my life to Him. From that was like from age 6 all the way up to 14.
Okay.
So actually about 12 or 13. So I was actually following hard after my older brother. My older brother is 3.5 years older than me. He was into the DC culture. And so I was actually a part of some go-go bands coming out, like pots and pans in our parents' basement.
Beautiful.
Me kicking on the drums at 12 or 13 years old.
My parents would tell you stories about that.
Me
me and drums and terrorizing their basement. Yes,
that was us. We had some folks with us too. Like the name of our first band was like Precision Band, something like that. But yeah, so I was a part of that culture, coming up. Playing in bands and that sort of thing. And it was fun. As I was following my brother, he had his license by then, so we was going to different spots, and I was sneaking out with him. So, like 12, 13, 14, I was starting to have my fun, that sort of thing. Then my brother went off to college, left me here by myself. And so I actually, on some real stuff, I fell into a depression. I was like, man, this, and my grades started slipping. And I was like, this is not life. This is not what it's supposed to be. So I got a track. Somebody handed me a track. And I had been going, short story, I've been going to church all my life.
Right.
My mom always made me go to church. No matter how late I stayed out, Saturday night, I always had to get to church Sunday morning.
They drug us there.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So I had a God knowledge, you know what I mean, in education, but I never applied it. You know what I mean? So somebody gave me a track. I was like, okay, what's this? Something told me to, take it home and read it. So I went home and I read it at the right time. Like, oh, salvation, I could go to hell, but I'm already in church, so how does that work, So I said, all right, well, let me just do this just in case.
Let me just make sure, just in case, just make sure.
Just, yeah,
I got it.
Insurance. So, I said the prayer of salvation right there. I felt something change in me that night. And I was in my room by myself, I felt something change. Then, after that, I hooked up with the homie, Son. Shouts out to Son one more time. But he had came back from this like missions trip. This young teenage Christians missions trip. So he was on fire already for Jesus. So our parents were already friends. So one time when we had a spend the night situation. You know how it is growing up. You have a spend the night situation. So we had a spend the night situation, and he had shared what he had learned overseas and with how his relationship with God was developing. And I just caught fire that night.
Wow.
I was like, I said another prayer, and I believe that's the first time that I received the Holy Spirit that night. You know what I mean? So from then on, so that was age 15. So from 15 on, I was on fire. You know?
Wow.
I was like, okay, this is it. I see what so it was just, everything was just brand new for me from that point on. So 15, I was on fire. Started getting into my word just naturally, organically, just opening up, reading my word. It just food for me.
Right.
I mean? So
right.
It wasn't until 16 till I hooked up with Gideon.
Okay.
So Gideon Band. Shouts out to the folks at Gideon Band.
Oh,
so
you mentioned him last week when you was on. Yeah. I was like, no, we talked about. No, wait, no, that was you. Go ahead. Because you were on the chat and you mentioned Gideon Band.
Yeah. Shouts out to them folks.
I saw Warren about. Actually, that might be about 5 months ago now. I saw him out in Baltimore.
Yeah. He's a busy cat, man. He's always doing something, So I hooked up with them about 16. They came to Mount Pleasant, and I couldn't imagine, like, gospel music could sound like this.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I was like, well, we can have fun,
right.
With gospel. I was like, yes, sign me up, please. So my brother, and he's one of the OGs too. He was back from college because they came in like June, because when we had a BAM jam, so you remember the Glen Arden BAM jams and all.
So I certainly do.
So he came back home from college, and so he was always a Congo player.
Right.
So he had the Congo set up for another reason. So when Gideon came on, he slid up there, started playing, And so I wasn't a part of it at first. So he started playing, and it gelled nicely. So they was like, hey, what's up? So they became a thing, and then eventually I latched on like I always do.
Right. Okay.
So I brought my saxophone along with me.
Right.
So I kind of fit in with that, and then I got to be on the mic a little bit, not singing, but just kind of exhorting the crowd and that sort of thing. So it just kind of happened naturally. But that just became the vehicle that helped to solidify me being on fire and that sort of thing. So
wow.
It was amazing. It's pretty dope.
Yeah, that's actually really dope.
Yeah.
So what is it that where are you now? What do you do? What do you do now? Obviously we've already had these conversations, but the people out here haven't. So like where do you where are you now? What do you do now? I know you're a smart guy, which is the reason why you're here. So,
well, I appreciate that. From one, it takes one to recognize.
I don't know. So he's working on his PhD, and I am not. So go ahead.
So me being on fire, and I can actually put it back to where I was. Me being on fire. I was like, this is like 11th grade, almost going to 12th grade. I was like, okay, so what's next? So in my mind, I just knew that I was going to go to Washington Bible College, and right there in Lanham, you know what I mean? Because I was right down the street from Mitchellville, where I grew up. I was like, okay, so I'm gonna just be somebody's pastor, you know what I mean, and just kind of learn. And so, they always tell you, what can you see yourself doing? So I always saw myself being, because I was on fire, I saw myself being like a seminary professor. Okay. Because I saw myself being able to explain deep biblical concepts, but in an educational way. Mm-hmm. I was like, but how do you get there though? You know what I mean? Like, how does that happen? So I was like, okay, well, I'll just go to Bible college. So I told, and it was a mentor at Duval High School. Shouts out to all the Duvalians. And she asked me, what do you want to do? And I was like, I think I want to go to seminary and get a bachelor's degree, I guess. She's like, that's great, Mark. She said, I know you're on fire for Jesus. She said, but the gift that I see that you have is for outside the church. Mm. And she's like, we have a lot of great talented people, a lot of great anointed people that are inside the church, but I see your gift more for the marketplace. Right. And for whatever reason, that made so much sense to me. Right. I was like, okay, like I kind of feel that, you know what I mean? So I was like, okay, so what I'm gonna do? Like, what I'm gonna major in? Because I really still do like talking about God. So I said, all right, I'll major in communication, because communication seems like I'm gonna still get the word out. Yeah, I can still talk about what I want to talk about. Yeah, yeah, gotcha. in a various variety of ways. So, absolutely. So I said, I'll major in communication. So So I searched for schools, and I picked, the school that I went to, and luckily I did. And God has His hand on this the entire time.
Right.
That's where I met my wife. You know what I mean? That's where a lot of things got popping off. But I majored in communication. So, fast forward from that track. So now communications is really like that's where I nerd out at. I started off in education.
Right.
Okay. So another plug is when I finished with my bachelor's, I just knew I was going to go into corporate America.
Right.
Be this kind of, upstanding corporate citizen. And,
right.
That sort of thing. That didn't work out.
Yeah, it does.
Didn't work out.
Man, if I could tell you all of the things that didn't work out, all of the plans that I had, all of the things that don't work out, when God has His own plan for you. And it's crazy how you can be on fire for God, right? You can be on fire for God, but still outside of the plan that He has for you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
How about that?
It's like, so you think that you're going to do all of this stuff. Like, you think you're going to be in corporate America talking about God. You think that you're going to be in seminary talking about God. And God is like, that's not what I have for you. You're on fire for me. Chill. I got a will for your life.
Yeah.
And that's, interestingly enough, people who study the Bible a lot, or people who not even scholarly study the Bible a lot. Sometimes we get such in a place where we want to, where we're so scholarly that we have to back up and keep that, understand that our relationship with God is still equally as important as as the depth of getting into this book and dissecting it and blah, 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 blah. You gotta come to this book and have that relationship with God while we're in this book, which should give us the power that we have in teaching of the word outside. So it's so Anyway, sorry, I'm on my own tangent.
No, it makes sense though. It makes sense. So corporate America didn't work out. So and this was like months before I was going to get married too. This is in the year 2000. So I was like, it brought me to my knees. Situation where it brought me to my knees. Like, God, what do you want me to do? Like,
right.
This is not working out. Like, I'm like, what's going on? And if I ever heard God clearly speak, this is one time I can still hold on to. He clearly said, "Be a teacher." I'm like, okay, all right. So I guess that's what I need to do. You know what I mean? Like, there's no more running from it. That's what I'm gonna be. So, got up. And started substitute teaching, and then eventually I went to DCPS, worked there for a bunch of years. I got into nonprofit, taught in Baltimore City public schools for a minute. But it wasn't until I got my master's in communications where I felt like, oh, okay, it's supposed to be adult education, primary school, secondary school, that was cool. It was building up my skill set. But it was really higher education and adult education was really more of my zone, my lane.
Okay.
And then it just brings me back to the original vision that I saw, me teaching at a college level, in higher education.
Right.
So it's not seminary necessarily, but it's still something that I enjoy immensely.
Right.
Like this is my zone, this is my lane. And so that's my furthest pursuit now. It's like, okay, guys, so and now, trying to establish my foot in the door there is getting my PhD degree.
Right.
Because in higher education, having a master's is like, that's cute. Like, really? 6-8 years of education, that's cute to y'all? Like, all right, whatever. So I'm going, further. But I feel it's something that I want to do. It's not just because it's required, but it's something that I feel compelled. I'm enjoying the studies a lot more now. So, I'm like, okay, God, this is where you have me to go. Your grace is going to lead me all the way. So, let's go.
That's what's up. I it's really cool So let me ask you this. When you felt God calling you to teacher, do you feel the call of God as far as the ascension gift or the fivefold of the teacher?
Good question. Because I say good question because I've had to figure out what my lane, what my path is going to be, Because if you leave it to a lot of people, they'll say, ministry, I see you with your own church, I see you with your own church. And I'm like, no, that's
It's not what they call me.
No, it's not what you call me to do. But okay, God, but what do you, how do I still feel in the church, scheme of your operation? And so short answer is, I still fit as a teacher there as well, because there's still a ministry gift that's there, and there's a prophetic there that he also told me about as well.
Right.
That still fits within the body of Christ.
Yeah.
It still fits within his gifts that he sent. But that's not where my livelihood is going to be.
Absolutely.
That's where I still contribute, and I'm very much a part of the body of Christ. But my life's calling,
right,
I feel like is in this higher education piece.
Right.
While I still have a good arm into the church ministry piece. If that makes sense.
Oh, it makes a complete and absolute sense. Like, because sometimes what we do is not always what we're called to do. So I work in AV. My company is an AV, audio visual. That's what I do. That's where I'm gifted at.
Right.
That's where the Lord makes room for me to take care of my, my expenses, my bills, blah blah blah. Right. It's just what I'm gifted at. Doesn't necessarily mean that's where I'm called at. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because my calling is completely, whereas my gift is supportive of my calling. I can use it in my calling, but my calling is completely different than what it is that I'm gifted at. So that's that's good that you bring that up. I just it just hit me just to ask.
Because that's something that even in my middle age, I'm trying to make sure that I'm hearing it right, and making sure I'm hitting all the I'm in the will of God for my life.
Right.
So I want to make sure that that's clear. And so that comes a part of my thinking as well. Like, okay, God, is this it? Is that it? It's like, okay, so the calling is the teaching part for me. But don't forsake the assembling of ourselves together. You still have a ministry gift. You still need to operate in a gift. Matter of fact, I'm supposed to be preaching tomorrow.
Right.
And so I'm still using that. But what He called me to, and I feel like God calls still in the marketplace, and I feel like
absolutely
that's another point that I wanted to bring up too. Like, yes. So I feel like my advisor was correct in a lot of ways. Like, yes, he has preachers and ministers and saints and friends, but he's still calling engineers. He's still
right.
calling masons and brick builders. He's still calling
right.
principals and all these other marketplace things that he still needs his people there. So he needs people in higher education.
Right.
And that's their thing. That's what he needs them to do. So. I'm just trying to find my lane and stick with it, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's good. I mean, I often wish that that Christians were vulnerable enough to say, man, I don't got it all together. I'm figuring it out. Still in, still in negotiations with God.
Still under construction.
Yeah. I'm still talking with God about this. So, but it's good. That there are people out here that aren't too prideful to say that I don't quite have it all figured out yet. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm still, and that's okay. like it's okay that you don't have it all figured out, because
it's a faith walk.
Yeah, because we don't know the plans we don't know what the plans are. You know what I'm saying? Like, I said this last week. I had my own plan for my life. Mm-hmm. I had my own plan, and God shook it up. That ain't what I got for you. That was nice. I'm gonna pull you out of this. I'm gonna show you why I put you through this. But I got another plan for you. Mm-hmm. And that plan that He has for you, is always ultimately the best thing for you.
Yeah.
And of course, you always think the best thing for you. And when you come to understand that He knew you before the foundations of the world,
it's amazing.
It's amazing, because you didn't know you before the foundations of the world. He knew you before you were born in your mother's womb, which means He knew you before you was conceived. You didn't know you before you were conceived, which means he know you better than you know you. And which means that the plans he has for your life is a plan that he has for you, a version of you that you ain't never met. You know what I'm saying? Because one day I stopped. I was like, who is the me that he knew?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because he knew me outside of my wisdom. He knew me outside of the things that I've been through. He knew me aside of, the hurt, the pain, the blah, 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 blah. He knew me aside from that. So it's like one day I just kind of thought to myself, gee, who was the me that he knew? And that's the guy that I'm looking for. As I walk the day-to-day life, that's the guy I'm looking for, the guy in him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I, to your point, like you find yourself in him. Like so when you seek him, when you search him, you find out more of who you are.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of people are scared of that because a lot of people, they feel like when they get closer to God, God's gonna call me to missions in Africa, something like that. If I get closer to God, I'm gonna have to be poor and start serving people on the street.
Right.
Like, no, God has like legit plan. It's whatever.
Yeah.
But you got to get to know you got to get to know him to know what they are.
Right.
You know what I mean? So me being on fire, early on, it gave me that glimpse.
Right.
To see, okay, what God has for me was pretty cool. I just got to stay in him to find out who I am, so
exactly.
that I can live that out.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's so real. That's to me. It's like, man, I don't know when I got this revelation for me is actually recent. It's not like something that I've always sort of been a slave to my own plan.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like I've always sort of been like, I know what I'm trying to do. I'm going where I want to go. Blah 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 blah. It wasn't until recently that I came into the revelations that you actually don't know nothing. What you know is all foolishness. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, man. I'm gonna switch gears for a second. So we are, you mentioned the son. How did you? So you mentioned the son, and that's a really good friend of mine. Okay. Which makes me think about Christian hip hop, okay. and its journey, and because I know a lot of you. Even past the Gideon band, you were with us, doing, in Christian hip hop. Just a part of the culture, man. What is it about? What attracted you to Christian hip hop? Was it just because some people are like, yeah, it's just my alternative. It wasn't really my alternative. It was my go-to. What attracted you to Christian hip hop?
It spoke to my youth. It speaks to my youth, the youth in me.
Right.
I mean, all these gray hairs, I still consider myself, young at heart.
Right.
So, but okay, because on some real stuff, like I grew up with NWA.
Right.
I grew up with Run DMC. I grew up, in the rap culture,
right.
The world culture. So, then when I met God, I went to a traditional church at the time. So then, like I said, that's when Gideon came along. I said, okay, the gospel music can sound good. It can sound right. upbeat and hip. So I started to kind of look into that a little bit more. And then that's when I discovered. So I discovered Christian hip hop, Christian rap kind of on my own. I was like, yes, because this speaks to, who I still am, because if the music before, if it made me, if it meshed with my identity, then I need, that kind of carries this Christian hip hop, this Christian rap kind of continues that notion. Like it's a part of my soul now. Like this is me. It also Christian go-go.
Right.
Like I mentioned, I was in some go-go bands before.
Right.
So it just makes sense to kind of continue that music on now.
Right.
Obviously now with the gospel lean to it, the gospel anointing to it. So I discovered it that way. Just like, okay, this just continues on, because the music that I grew up with, me being a musician, it just kind of continues in that vein, and it just carried me through.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Because listening as a Christian, yes, I can listen to choir music, and everything, but something that really kind of vibes with you. I'm trying to explain it, articulate. Something that really kind of helps you identify with everyday life. It was more of the Christian rap. It was the Christian go-go, being able to experience that atmosphere. That kind of helped me, carry me through my Christian walk, so that I can feel like I don't have to be this old person now. I can still be the young me and still enjoy Christ.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's up, and that's very interesting. Just to know that there are a lot of people that were following and that are in Christian hip hop. We've seen the ups and the downs of it.
Yeah.
We've seen the highs and the lows. And what is it? How do you? What is it that you want to see? This is a more philosophical question.
Okay.
All right. What is it that when you think about culture, when you think about the future, maybe you think about America, what do you see that you would love to see accomplished in the earth, as you know?
That we continue the kingdom culture as fun as it is.
Right.
And we were talking offline, just that, we were the pioneers of the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, like gospel culture.
Right.
For young people movement. Like that was our life.
Right.
We were, the pioneers in that movement. Like I want to see that continue on because, the world has competition, for that. The world has a lure. It has a draw. Say, hey, come over here. Come over here to strip clubs. Come over here to this club over here.
Right.
Like, but if you're a Christian, we don't participate in that. So I remember being on at West Virginia State University. Shouts out to all to Yellow Jackets. So. And it's in the middle of West Virginia,
right.
First of all. So, and this was where we were. It was outside of the city,
right?
A lot of HBCUs are like Maryland Eastern Shore, which is like in the middle of nowhere. You know what I mean? So a lot of these colleges are in the middle of nowhere on purpose. So you had to kind of go out and see your fun. So if you're a Christian, it's even less that because if you're a party goer, you have to travel out to go to the next party, that sort of thing. But for Christians, like, what do we do to have fun?
Right.
So for a while, for like the first 2 years while I'm at state, like it wasn't really anything to do, but to go to church. And of course, you had that temptation of saying, hey, you could also do some other things, But I was like, man, that's not what's happening. But then. Some friends of mine, we did create a college ministry called Wildfire Ministries, and that really helped to kind of change our options. We had things to do on a Friday night. We had a church service that was booming, that was anointed. People were giving their lives to the Lord. We had great music. So I was like, okay, yes, this is better. So now Christians have things to do. We can still be a part of our youthful. We could be our youthful selves, have positive, gospel-centered activities to engage in.
Right.
So I want to see that. So to answer the question, I want to see that more in the earth. Just, to build our culture.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be an old folks culture. It doesn't have to be, just young folks, but to build our culture to have options.
Right.
So a lot like how it, and I was just reading up on the bombings of what they call Black Wall Street, and as horrible as it was, I still appreciated the way that they had black-owned, businesses, black-owned grocery stores, banks, and all that. Like, so for the kingdom, I want to see that. We just have all these options for us.
Yes.
So that's what I want to see.
Yeah. That's there is a lot to be said in that, just coming from where I come from where we come from, we have, and really it was sort of countrywide. We were here in the DC area, but when I got an opportunity to go out of town and minister out of town, you found that it was the same sort of people trying to get this, sort of culture of of Christian-based, activities, whereas Christians had when you live in a life for Christ, you wanted to to participate in the Christian in the quote unquote Christian lifestyle, and that lifestyle being different than living, outside of the Christian lifestyle. And there were lots of places like that all across the country, right? There were, and I remember going to Miami, and it's just performing in Miami, and it was a real, real hunger for God and a hunger to be, to be set apart,
Yes.
while, even while in, a place, like Miami. And so, there is a lot of different places. There was a lot of different places, and that is very true. That to see that just spring up, and see, less, for argument's sake, for less Popeyes and more Chick-fil-A's. You know what I'm saying? Where a company is, companies are really saying that these are the standards we hold. This is, what we're about, and really holding up this culture and setting this example of what it is, what it means to be a Christian. And you can be a Christian while still doing everyday things on the earth. And for the young people, where is fun? What is fun? There was a lot more things, when I was younger, that we were participating in. The problem with all of that stuff is the balance between culture. The problem is it was always the balance between the practicality of culture and the sort of dream of how you wanted the world to be. Exactly. So there was always. I remember Waldorf had My Brother's Place. Okay. Yeah, it was a place on the corner of Leonardtown Road in like Washington, and it was like they was trying to have the gospel go-go's. They were trying to do this, blah blah blah. But then the economic culture always stopped you. Right. Okay. It was never enough money to do it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like it didn't. It was always it has always been the economic thing that always held us. Even with they had a go-go spot here by the what was it called? By the Crystals Gate. It was if Curtis could see me right now, he'd be angry.
Down by Crystal Gate.
Yeah, I know. Whatever it was. But at the same thing. It was like, they don't have the alcohol there. They don't have the bar. They don't have the income. So it was very difficult to
sustain
to keep that thing going. Yeah. And it was like that everywhere. It was like, it was Club for Jesus, Club JC's, Club. It was like all of these things that were popping up
down the street from where I'm at now, Capitol Plaza. Mm-hmm. They had Gospel Live.
I remember, yeah,
a whole restaurant.
Yeah.
Now that joint's gone. You know what I mean? Like,
I remember Gospel Live. Yeah, they had the Go-Go's at Gospel Live. They had it was a bunch of stuff.
It was a brunch spot before brunches became popular.
I remember it. I remember, so, yeah. And that was how. That was how that was our beginning states, but I haven't really seen much growth in it, and especially in this area. Yeah. We were kind of the authority. This area was kind of the authority, kind of the people that everybody looked at.
Yeah.
And so that has been just kind of like it's been an interesting run. It's hard. Economics is hard. One of the things that I'm doing with my company is trying to build an economically strong company, so I can underwrite stuff like that, because we're not going. It's going to be extraordinarily difficult to. It's going to be extraordinarily difficult to try to run those kind of things without the money.
Yeah, without the capital behind it.
It's super difficult to try to run that type of stuff without the appropriate money behind it. So one of the things that and hopefully a couple of other business owners a couple of other business owners will partner with me as we, because those things have to be underwritten, and we can't kind of lean on the church, because I think that the church is, for lack of a better word, business plan is kind of tapped out. you can't collect but so much, what I'm saying, from the people. But these things, in order to grow, they got to get funded, and that's has always been the problem with all of the youth stuff. It's very difficult to fund youth stuff. It doesn't pay for itself. You have to fund it. Yeah. You have to invest in youth, and that's hard.
We were the underdogs, trying to establish a culture and sustain a culture.
Right.
Financially, just the underdogs compared to what's happening in society. Yeah, it's a difficult feat, and like how we were talking earlier. That's why a lot of cats, didn't stay. For one reason or another. But it's kind of hard to sustain longevity, in the kingdom culture, without that kind of backing.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
that's really been, that's really been tough. But even at that, has also been tough. Vincent said that the place where Duran's church was.
The Lord's House of Transformation was. But over there in Greenville, right?
No, Forestville.
Right.
Right on Old Monroe Pike and Forestville Road.
Yeah.
So that has been just the that's just been our thing. But even at that, when we talk about these styles of music, it's very difficult for the urban style of music and that type of stuff to be heard then. It's so much easier now.
Yeah, it is.
The platforms are so much easier now. Like, it's so much easier to get a record to the people now than it used to be back in the day. There's less of us now trying to get records to the people, but it's so much easier now. Back then, man, we had to beg for airtime. We had to beg radio stations who didn't play the music because there are no Christian hip hop, Christian go-go radio stations. So, we had to sort of, beg people who the music didn't fit their format.
Yeah.
We had to beg them for airtime.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a difficult thing. Yeah. And so these days is a little bit different, So hopefully we can figure out some way for these young people to really, still understand the culture, understand what it means to be Christian, what the Christian lifestyle is really about. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's where we're at, man. So as we go forth, and just in America, in the music, just in anything, what do you find our biggest? I asked Curtis this last week. I like this answer. But what do you find that our biggest problem in getting in reaching the young people? What do you find is our biggest problem in this culture, in this country? It seems like a lot of young people are going away from Christianity altogether. Got a lot of I'm spiritual, I'm not religious. A lot of young people are moving away just from the culture altogether. What do you find is the biggest problem?
A disconnect would be the short answer. And this comes into education as well. Like they say, it's a disservice to try to reach young people if you don't understand their world. And Like, I mean, yes, given it's kind of hard to keep up because there's so much more that's in their world now. You know, it's all about cell phone technology. Is, you know, they move from one social media app to the next.
Yeah.
You know, when Facebook was all the rage, it used to be Facebook, but now Facebook is for old people. Now it's Snap, and now it's they're telling me about something else.
TikTok.
Like TikTok.
Yeah.
You know? So, like, yes, it's kind of hard because it's a lot of moving pieces with them.
Yeah.
But you have to understand their world first, you know,
Right.
to be able to reach them effectively and to be able to communicate with them. That's one of the main things that you can do. And so you let them know that, listen, you know, this kingdom culture is still valuable. It's still something that's valuable.
Right.
It's something that, you know, it's for your life. This is vital stuff. If I were to add another V to it,
Right.
You know, like don't. This is not a throwaway culture. This is not, you know, something you should pick up and throw down. Like you need this, you know, for this life and the life, you know, to come. So,
right.
So, but being able to reach them through those channels, reach them in their world, understanding their world, I think, you know, because, so to answer the question succinctly, it's, the problem is there's a disconnect when we don't understand where they're coming from. When we don't understand their world, then there's a disconnect. We can't reach them effectively. So the solution is to try to do our best to, you know, get into what they're into, and to speak their language and to reach them with what we know works.
Right. I've you know, I found that one of the biggest disconnect I found is that we have a lot of churches, right? And like you said, there is a disconnect because there are tons of churches. We're at no shortage whatsoever of just places to go to church.
Right.
I think that. And I think that we are busy. You know, this is just my opinion. We're busy looking for gimmicks. You know, we're busy looking for little things that manipulate you into, you know, coming out. You know, just little knickknacks and little gimmicks, and even if you knickknack and gimmick a person to coming out, I think that the world is missing an experience with God. And I think that young people are really missing an experience with God, that, you know, that the knickknacks aren't fulfilling. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or the gimmicks don't fulfill.
They don't. They don't last long.
And it's like, you know, sometimes we get young people there, but then, you know, the substance or the experience they need. Because, you know, I've said this a million times, and I can say it 1,000,001. God doesn't need a gimmick.
Not at all.
Right? Because if you get an experience with God, you got an experience with God. You don't need the music to be funny. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't need. But sometimes, you know, it's useful to get people to a place. But so I found that these days, man, we get them to a place and then they don't have, there's no experience for them to hold. And the world is just out knickknacking us.
Yeah. So it was a couple theories I was reading last year, and talking about the church in particular, saying that we need to get rid of what they call the attractional model. You know, and that is, you know, come to us. You know, we have the best thing in town. You know, to come over here.
Right.
You know, the attractional model, we can't compete with the world with that. They said that we need to turn to a missional model, whereas getting in their spaces, getting in their lives, and presenting Jesus to them where they are, and that kind of thing. So to answer the point about the gimmick thing, you know, we try to create things and come up with kitschy ways to try to get them to come to us. Like, no, we have the best product already as Jesus, but we need to meet them where they are.
Right. Absolutely.
Rather than trying to get them
trying to
get them to come this way.
Reel out a pole and pull them in versus, you know, why not just jump in the water and, you know, and go to where they are. Yeah,
meet them where they are.
Yeah, you know, God can be anywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's such a real thing. It's a real statement that you know, God he can literally be wherever you take him. You know, where, you know, you want to present the word on the side of the road. It is what it is. And experience on the side of the road beats a knick-knack any day, or
100%.
You know, beats just a gimmick. You know, a song and dance. You know, just you know, getting them in is what we is their experience there. Right. And I've been finding that a lot, and just in where we've been at, just how can we reach more people or reach people that are quickly falling away from all things faith, quickly falling away from all things spiritual, quickly falling away from all things having to do with with God. I think a lot of times it's a hard, it's hard to compete with Google.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Less an experience with God. Because we may not be able to control or compete with Google, but the experience with God can.
Absolutely, 100% can.
Yeah. And so I find it hard to, you go up and, I do a lot of tech and stuff at churches, obviously. I install a lot of AV equipment. I do a lot of training of media ministries and stuff like that. And I realize that, church wants to expand the reach. But by expanding the reach, you can't just think that, oh yeah, we're gonna get on Facebook, we're gonna get on YouTube, we're gonna get on, blah blah blah, and we just, that's how we're gonna, we're gonna reach the masses. It's like, yeah, you're not. Actually, you're gonna be there. Yeah, it's a great place. But what are you bringing there? Yeah. Right. Because one thing to have the tool to get there, another thing to show someone experience, another thing to impart an experience with God into someone. And I think that's what our culture, I think that's really what we're missing as a culture, that a real, genuine experience with God. Yeah. The one-to-one, relationships that, like how you said, the experience, like if you have a Facebook page, if you're going live, okay, that's nice. What are you bringing live? What do you have there that's going to make people want to tune in, log on, as a church, what's going to, I like the term content creator. What content are you bringing to the masses that they want to bring, like, ooh, I want to see that. That's dope. Like, so that's, to your point, that's the kind of stuff that, our churches, our ministries need to be thinking about. Like, it's more than just checking off a box. We got this, we got that. Like, no, what quality are you bringing, to those check boxes? Right, kind of thing. Right. Are you just showing the show, or is it, do you have an experience for the people out here who are never coming? You know what I'm saying? Or they won't ever come if there isn't something that's different from you than just anywhere else that they can log on to, Yeah. So, man, listen. This has been a very interesting conversation. Yeah. I mean, it's like every time I look up, it's, like I can sit back and have conversations with people, and then we just get in the zone. And I look up and like, ooh, wait, it's it's the time.
yeah, we've been going for a minute.
Man, this is the Elevation Podcast. My name is Shawn Riff-Raff, and I'm following, I'm being obedient to what God says, and this is a season that He has me in, and hopefully I can impart something. I can stir you up, take you, elevate you to a new level in one way or another. So there is a part that I get to doing. I think everybody who is a guest here will somehow look forward to this part. But there's a part that I like to get to, whereas I sort of like, there's an appreciation to oh, wait a minute. Oh, anyway, for people who come on. And it's probably always something from my store, but for you.
Oh boy. Dope.
So this, it's the good hoodie.
Yeah. It's about my size.
Yeah, I'm really good at sizing people up.
Yeah. That's good.
You're a large, medium large.
Yeah, that works. It's dope, man. I appreciate this, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I appreciate this, man. Thank you, man.
No problem, man.
Appreciate it.
Man, thank you for joining me, man. Thank you for being a part, for believing in what I do.
Absolutely.
And I'm always be here for conversation. Throwing things out there. This is the Elevation Podcast. My name is Shawn Riff-Raff. Thanks everybody for joining us this week. Next week I'll be here 7:30. This podcast will be available tomorrow or whenever they make those podcast things available. But it's always available on my website, ShawnRiffRaff.com, ShawnRiffRaff.com, or my YouTube page, or my Facebook page, or whatever page you want to look up. It'll be available there too. Thank you guys very much for joining us. We'll catch you next time. Peace out.
Peace.